Yes, yes. Let's talk about it. Today, we're talking about the keys to identify if you are your own worst enemy and how to know if you are self-sabotaging. Spoiler alert. The one thing standing between you and your goal is the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't achieve it. I'm not a teacher. I'm really not a great storyteller. What I do best, what I love to do, is see people win. That's what I do. And I knew that I was really onto something. I learned how to stop screwing myself over. And I want to be clear, I was great at helping other people win and helping other people stop screwing themselves over. But I was terrible at not screwing myself over. Okay? In our last episode, we explored how even the most successful people who seem to have it all can find themselves undermining their own achievements through a series of self-sabotaging behavior. If you didn't notice, I was very passionate about that because a lot of that resonated with me a lot, okay? But don't stay out of my business, okay? It's not your business. But we had fun breaking down Koe Wetzel's song, which I love, called Sweet Dreams, and unpack this deeper meaning, revealing how the lyrics reflect the internal struggle of self-sabotage, often driven by deep-seated insecurities, past traumas, and a constant fear of losing what you've worked so hard to achieve. So how do we unravel this behavior? I'm glad you asked. That's my specialty. How you see yourself has everything to do with if you are screwing yourself over or not. And how you see yourself is based on your earliest memories and your first relationships. Yeah, I'm talking about like your parents, your siblings, your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents. But because your personality has formed, the most difficult thing that you will have to do is to open your mind to rewrite what other people wrote for you. And what I mean is, you are mishandled, you are mistreated, you may have been undervalued or disregarded, but that is not the totality of who you are. But because you were treated that way, naturally, you have become familiar with that self-concept, that self-identity. I'm here to show you how I came out of my own trauma to evolve past some of my own deepest traumas. Let me tell a quick story. This isn't even in my notes. I'm going to tell a quick story. And I'm going to tell you, just give you a small example of what I mean, okay? My father was a general contractor, okay, like home remodeling. And so when I was really little, I guess I was maybe 5, 6, 7, somewhere in five, not seven, maybe 5, 6, 7. Let's just say 5, 6, 7, okay? And I was over my dad's house for the weekend. My parents had separated. And because he had some shady dealings with his contractors, something about him not paying them on time or something crazy like that. That's a whole other story. You'll hear about that in another episode. But anyway, I was asleep and I was awakened by a huge crash. Boom! Right? It sounded like an explosion to me. So I was awakened by this loud crash. And what it ultimately was is one of the contractors, one of the workers, one of his mechanics had thrown a brick into the back of his Cadillac. Okay. So what did I say? I was like 5, 6, 7. I haven't been able to sleep through the night since. Niece hasn't slept through the night since she was 5 or 6 years old. I'll wake up like through the night. Okay. Since then. So I'm just sharing with you how past relationships and past experiences can absolutely be present in our day, but we have to be aware of when those things happen and what to do about them. And that's why we are starting to form this relationship together. I'm glad you're here. I'm moving on. Now, how do you know? How do you know how you see yourself? Stick with me. I have some questions for you. Are you aware of how often you see yourself as unsafe, as needing protection, needing to put distance between yourself and someone else, yourself and the world? How often do you feel the need to create a controlled environment to maximize your safety or security? Your therapists and mentors may advise you that if you feel unsafe, yes, you should protect yourself, remove yourself, put up boundaries and borders. I would argue that while you build these physical and emotional walls, you will not only keep people from getting in, you will also be creating an environment that will be difficult for you to get out of. This is a massively huge self-sabotaging tactic. When you feel unsafe, the natural response is to create an environment where you do feel safe, where you feel protected. And the more unsafe you feel, the more vulnerable you think you are. And the deeper your mind sinks into a hole of ambiguity about who you think you are and what it is that you are trying to protect. And before you know it, you're 30,000 leagues under the sea, deep, dark, barely any light, trying to understand why life isn't what you'd expect it to be. So let me ask you a question. How do you know if you're trying to keep yourself safe? Okay, let's dive in here. Do you procrastinate or delay tasks or decisions to avoid the fear of failure or judgment? Do you meticulously plan every detail to avoid mistakes? Do you throw yourself into your work or career to avoid dealing with personal issues or emotions? Do you pull away from friends and loved ones to prevent potential hurt or disappointment? Do you deflect serious conversations or emotions with jokes or avoid them at all costs to avoid talking about your past pain? Do alcohol, drugs, or other substances help to numb past pain or feelings of insecurity or anxiety? Are you rigid, needing to stick to a strict routine to create a sense of predictability and control? Do you micromanage others, trying to control their actions to ensure everything goes according to plan? Do you keep your true feelings hidden to protect yourself from being judged, invalidated, or censored? Do you avoid true intimacy, shying away from close relationships to prevent emotional exposure? Do you exhibit compulsive behaviors, engaging in repetitive actions or rituals to create a sense of safety and control? I think all of those applied to me at one point or another. My favorite, do you find it hard to trust people, assuming they have negative intentions or ulterior motives? Lots, probably most people who have been sexually assaulted or sexually abused have this one. It just comes with the territory. We'll get into that as well. Earlier, I said you might think that you're keeping yourself safe by preventing others from getting in. But these very same walls can become barriers that trap you inside, creating an environment that becomes increasingly difficult for you to escape. Imagine these walls as a fortress. Inside, you feel secure, untouched by potential hurt or disappointment. But over time, this fortress can start to feel like a prison. Isolation can lead to feelings of loneliness and detachment, cutting you off from meaningful relationships and experiences. And the walls that once provided safety now become obstacles to your growth, to your happiness, and believe it or not, to your peace. When you find yourself engaging in behaviors that push people away or that make other people say that you seem controlling or manipulative, it's often because of wounds from your childhood that run deep. And sure, you may feel unloved, unlovable. You might even feel like you're a nightmare to be in a relationship with, like Koe Wetzel said in his song Sweet Dreams. But you can absolutely break free from these self-sabotaging patterns. It's about understanding where they came from and how you hold yourself back in your relationships, your career, your finances, and your joy and peace of mind. It's about understanding where they came from and how you hold yourself back in your relationships, your career, and your finances when you don't address them. So don't go anywhere. Because in the next several episodes, we'll begin dismantling these walls by talking about how you can transform these behaviors. I get so excited. Heal those wounds and step into the fullness of who you were created to be. If I can do it, I know you can. And I'm going to tell you every single secret that's buried inside of me, I'm giving to you. And before I go, remember, this is my favorite part. Remember this. Listen, I love you, and God loves you, and God has a message for you today.